Hello there and welcome back to my channel. I'm Giselle and I have started an experiment that helps me visually show how the law of assumption affects our life, whether we are aware of it or no. Last time we finished episode 4 with a comparison between our two Sims, their level of happiness, and the fact that whilst their lives have gone totally different ways, they are both now going to be inviting the same permanent guest into their life. Meet Sushi, the Siamese cat. Sushi is not my real life cat, but created for this experiment. My favorite breed is the Siamese, but all the cats I have ever had have been rescues born to strays outside or in a safe house. I will once again first play my version 1 sim, who is employed in the business career and always sticks to her particular food diet. She and her version 2 twin have the same traits, likes and dislikes, and their twin cat Sushi also have the same traits in both versions. So let's jump in and see how the corporate world Giselle is going to cope with adding a cat to her hectic, lonely life. It's now the weekend and Giselle has 2 days off work. However, she still needs to fill out her reports for work. So I sent her to start on that immediately to try and get it out of the way on the Friday night, since she was anyway alone, unlike the sim in the version 2. However, she stopped soon afterwards to interact with her cat and eat some food, which reminded me she was still to get a food bowl and litter tray for Sushi. Since she was already always trying to catch up with everything, I figured I would get her an automatic feeder and automatic litter tray to avoid adding to her ongoing chores. It took all of her savings though, and she didn't even afford to fill the feeder after that, so she just filled the bowl with some dry food. All the more reason to work at getting that next promotion, a very good example of the corporate world for the vast majority in real life. Since by late Friday she was totally burned out, I committed to ensuring she would rest a bit during the weekend before she went back to her grueling job. One time she visited the museum in her own hometown to fulfill a bucket list dream, and at another point she went to a park in Hanford on Bagley with Sushi. Since she was tense most of the time, she refused to do even things she would ordinarily love but required effort. Instead, she seemed content to watch some romance on TV and play Sims Forever to relax when at home. I also coaxed her to take a lot of selfies on her 2 outings to help her with her photography skills. On the Monday at work, she got another promotion and an award too. At least now she had money to pay the bills. And now we're back to playing the artist version of Giselle, who, if you remember well, ended her Friday in a happier, more fulfilled place, with more free time and more skills too, as well as having a female friend called Rarahu, who's over at her house at the end of the last episode. The second version, Giselle, also needed to buy a food bowl and litter tray for Sushi. I debated getting her a simple bowl, but decided there was no reason to, since she had more money than the sim in our version 1, and so she got her a nice automatic feeder. In choosing a litter tray, again I decided there was no reason to not get a self-cleaning one, considering she was living a better lifestyle than her twin. At first I was going to go for the same litter tray as in the version 1. However, since this one was not going to be hidden in a corner, but rather in the middle of the living room, I decided to get the quirkier one, intending to make it part of the decor. After this extravagant purchase, even this version of our sim ended up with little in her bank account, yet still better off than the one in version 1 and having enough money to fill the automatic feeder in this case. This version of Giselle seemed to have time for everything, even though she was working even on the Saturday. By the Saturday morning, she had also accumulated enough aspiration points to buy herself the frugal living trait. In a strange turn of events, whilst she was at work, her friend Rarahu phoned her up saying she had a strange dream about her. I selected which of the two answers Giselle would give in reply, and I ended up with the chased by death trait. So this version 2 sim has the Sunday and Monday off from work. So the episode here will end on before she goes back to work, since her work week starts on the Tuesday. And they both technically worked for 1 week, and the difference is really staggering. The second version sim was getting much more done in a day, and she was not only gaining more skill points but also gaining more aspiration points, given that, as I explained in an earlier episode, my way is of changing the aspiration as the sim is doing different things, because in real life we do become more proficient in all areas of our life, as say we spend more years being a house owner, so we learn how to clean better, or maybe we get better at repairing things. Our first pet is more difficult to know how to care for than when you subsequently get more pets, maybe. So our second version sim, in going along in her everyday life and managing to catch up with so much, was also gaining points to get herself traits to make her life even better. Our sim in version 2 had enough aspiration points to buy herself two very useful traits: the frugal living trait, which would lower her bills, and also the creative visionary trait, since she was painting masterpieces and writing books, and this would help her in that area, her creative area. Meanwhile, our version 1, Giselle, was still working towards gaining enough points to get a trait that she so much needed, which was the carefree trait, in order to uh, get less tense given her job and general lifestyle. Our version 2 sim has more money in her bank account, a more fulfilled life, a job she loves, and more time for her cat, and to always keep her house clean and tidy, and have time to rest as well. And her rest is actually lucrative in that it also makes her money. All she did was decide that, yes, I can make money doing something that I love, instead of going the safest route, which is a job in the business career. And I will be ending this week's experiment result with a question. Who said, after all, that it is safer to work in an employer's office than something more creative and artsy? Yes, administrative jobs are a must for every business and will never be in short supply. But at the end of it, any and all opinions are simply assumptions of limitations, so why follow what others believe than what you believe you can achieve? Assume you are good enough and you are halfway there. Is our sim from version 1 going to keep running against time? And is her twin in version 2 going to keep painting for a paycheck? Click on subscribe to ensure not to miss the next episode.